Are we going? You ready? All right.
Okay.
Here we go. I'm going to clap it in. We don't need the clap. I just do it because it makes me feel
Nobody
like
needs the
official.
clap.
Nobody needs the clap. Yeah. Hey, welcome to the Fireside Tattoo Podcast. I'm Jake. This is Eva. Eva, not Ava. That's what Evan told me not to call you Ava, that you didn't
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
Eva. A lot of people say Ava.
I would have
but
said Eva to begin with, I would
Yeah.
think. And Ulyss, your mom's name is Ava, but it's AVA, right? Yeah. That's Ava. Eva.
Yeah, Eva.
Ava.
Yeah, it's a common thing. I don't take offense to it
I mean,
at
plus
all.
we're in the South, so everybody's like.
It's more like Ava.
Ava. It doesn't really.
Ava. There's
They're
an
probably
extra vowel
saying
in there.
E too, but
It
just sounds like
it's
A.
A-E-V-A.
Yeah.
Ava.
it's EAVA
Oh,
actually.
yeah.
Eva.
With an H on the end.
So, what are we going to talk about today? So I am going to say before we're not going to start with a question. We're going to do a little background first. But we did plant. This is the first time we've planted a question. I figure if I just pull it, then people are going to be like, "That was fake." So I'm going to let you know on the front end. The question is fake. It's not a fake question, but we did plant it for them. So when we get to it, that's what we did. Because we're honest on the Fireside Tattoo Podcast.
Nothing wrong with a good strategy.
Nothing wrong with strategy. So you guys are from Florence. Are you from Florence, or you just
I am originally from Florence. We moved back down a couple years ago after New York, after traveling and doing all that stuff. So we just wanted a small place to like relocate and hang out and enjoy ourselves.
Where are you from originally?
I'm born and raised Buffalo, New York.
Oh, okay.
Can't you tell?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody get in the car.
So how did you guys meet? How did you end up? Were you in New York already?
So
Tattooing?
we met a long time ago in Seattle, actually, and at a convention.
Yeah.
And
At
then
not just a convention, the Seattle Tattoo
Seattle
Convention.
Tattoo Convention, yeah. And we were at Super Genius at Damon Conklin's shop.
Yeah.
After a long game of Hide the Cheeseburger, which is my favorite game to do in other people's tattoo shops.
Haven't heard of that
Yeah,
one.
Literal hide the cheeseburger?
Yeah, you just buy a bunch of cheeseburgers and hide them all over their shop.
It's like a delicious party reward.
Yeah. Yeah, we started talking, and then I just stalked her around the country. She was in Mass at the time, and I was in Seattle, so I was like, I can't let this one get away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was perfect. He looked like a pile of trouble. He had long dreadlocks and a big gold tooth and all these chains. And then I found out he was a tattooer, and I was like, ugh. And then he's like, and I live on the opposite coast from you, and I was like, double, ugh.
Right.
So I was kind of like, at least I made a friend. That's cool. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Definitely something more there. So
Yeah. I was speaking of the look. I was a little bit standoffish at first because the thing is, like, my hat. If I wear this hat on a show, everyone's like, "Oh, Fireside," and if I don't wear it, I'm completely incognito. And when I saw you, I was like, "Oh, he upped my hat game." I don't know how I feel about
the
that.
captain's hat.
Yeah,
So
the captain's hat.
I usually wear the gray, like old gray fedora that we got married in. So that's like my go-to hat. But we went to visit at her old shop not too long ago, and I was like, man, remember that captain's hat that was at the shop? And she was like, yeah, it's probably still there. And I took it, and I was like, I'm going to wear it. It doesn't fit. That's why it sits on the back of my head.
Yeah. Well, man,
It still looks natural.
It looks like it came with you. I mean, I didn't know you before the hat, but looking at him, like, it looks like
It works out. You get a lot of, like, if you got a weird hat on, you get a lot of weird questions, as you probably know.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody was like, you really look like you're super into nautical stuff. I was like, I want to get a nautical tattoo. And I was like, actually, no, I just birds. It's the opposite.
Just the bird tattoo.
I'm just the bird guy.
Let's talk a little bit about stylistically. You guys are pretty different. You take more of a I mean, both of you guys have obviously your approach to tattooing technically is pretty traditional, I guess. But you have more stylistically. You're a little more traditional. Is that true to say?
I would say so. I think I feel like the biggest difference between our work is I think I use a little bit more like lines throughout the pieces that make it look like slightly more illustrative, whereas Ulyss tends to do like more color blends and fades within the piece itself.
I kind of, we both, like you said, we both do like real traditional, like we have real traditional backgrounds, so I think you have to have the backbone of all the tattooing stuff there. I think the thing that I do that Eva doesn't do is she keeps it just a little bit more in the traditional scale and uses skin tone, which is probably better in the long run than I do. But I blend everything out to like as high contrast as I can get it, and Eva uses the skin a little more than I do.
Yeah, I always find that's a unique balance, and I used to I would, if I needed a skin tone, I mixed that skin tone and blended it in. And I got my torso done some years back by Jeff Insminger, and he is a master of of using skin strategically.
Oh yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, and when I saw him doing that on me, I was like, oh, I need to leave more skin in my tattoos. but there is a fine line there, and like using it the right way. If you use the skin as a true kind of highlight, then it can read really lighter and cleaner and brighter than any highlight you could mix and put in the skin.
Exactly.
I agree, and it doesn't it also, I think a lot of people make the mistake of fully saturating a piece to the point where it almost makes it look too heavy, whereas if you, like you said with Jeff, like if you can just blend it out a little bit more with skin tone, it like actually kind of almost gives the appearance that it's just like breathing and like just kind of blends into your body a little bit more effortlessly instead of being like this heavy thing that's like plastered on it. You're wearing your tattoos aren't wearing you.
Yeah, I think also too, like you actually get more depth when you use skin tone, like on a curvature of something. You know, if you blend it out into that highlight and somehow it loses that like harsh structure look, which I think helps a lot. The big thing, though, that really is a sign, I think, of the times and everything, a lot of tattooing is really about that photo, and tattoos that use skin tone look better healed, and they really do look better. Like if I, even in my stuff, like if I use more skin tone, it looks better.
Right.
But
A bit softer.
the photo always looks like garbage because there's like that harsh swelling where it goes, and everybody's so like instant gratification, including myself. I'm like a Instagram. I feel so bad about it. I can't put my phone down, kind of thing.
No, you're absolutely right. It is a real issue when.
I'm sorry. I had no idea you were so Catholic. The guilt is just consuming you.
I'm like, I can't help it. It's like I feel like because I look at everybody, I'm like, just everybody's on their phone.
Yeah.
And then
I'm
over there
everywhere.
too. Like, I can't believe I can judge everybody while I'm looking at my phone.
Let me take a picture of all these people on their phones with my phone.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that's a great point though, is that we do tend to. It's gotten to the point where not only is it a highlight reel, but I can't tell you how many tattoos I've flipped through, and I'm like, that's probably a really solid tattoo, but I know it doesn't look like that. And you pushed it so far beyond, you saturated it so far, you pushed contrast so much, or you highlighted such a specific area of it, and then your logo's on the side, which I hate, and then it was like, oh man, I swear that I can tell it's a good tattoo. I wish you just showed it the way that it looked, but you can't. I mean, now if the three of us decided like we're going to start doing that, nobody's going to like our photos anymore.
I know.
Oh, well, the new algorithm on social media is just messing everything up anyhow. So, I agree with you. You're right.
It's just like the sad thing is a lot of the tattoo, like I said, a lot of the tattoos that look really cool on Instagram, they are really nice tattoos. But, even if they're edited or whatever they do to them, they're still only this big in that photo, and then like the harsh reality of it is the tattoos that don't really look the best on Instagram, when you see in public, you're like, oh shit, that's a nice tattoo. So-and-so do that. And when you see one that was really like blows up and like takes over Instagram, and you see it at a convention walking around, and you're like, oh, somebody stole that tattoo. And then you're like, oh no, actually that's the real one. It's not just a terrible copy of the the one.
It's sad, and it's sad that we're to that point where you have to grab someone's attention. I'll never forget one of my favorite interviews or moments in any of your interview we've done is we had. Do you guys know Aaron Springs from?
Know of.
Okay, so he does a lot of he's awesome. He does a lot of really cool, like new school looking stuff, and he's a lot younger than, he's probably 15 years younger than me. Maybe he's mid-late 20s, maybe not. Maybe he's 30. I don't know, but he came up. He started tattooing in this kind of Instagram era, and when he's planning his tattoos, he made this comment to me. He's like, I visualize what it looks like in a 2x2 square when I'm blocking out my basic idea of the tattoo. as a 20-plus year veteran, like there was no internet at all when I started tattooing, and so that never occurred to me. And I realized, like, oh man, I'm way behind the game. I don't even consider.
By the time you realize stuff like that, it's already so far past you that you're
Right.
like, I would never have thought about that.
It's
Yeah.
also like one of those things too. If you, fortunately, I've had like the experience of working with some other people who have done a lot of large scale work, and that's like one of their master tricks is to like do like a tiny thumbnail sketch. I want to say like, I think it was either Jeff Ensminger or like Nick Baxter. We were talking about it, and they would just do like a tiny little study, because if it looks good, like, you know, a couple inches on your paper, once you blow it up on the person, that's when you can really have fun with all that detail. You just want to make sure the overall flow and shape and everything's going to be appropriate with their body.
Right. Yeah, and I'm absolutely with that. And I always thought of it like coming from a traditional art background, doing thumbnail sketches for whatever you're doing, just trying to figure out how compositionally how you want something to sit. And you know, and it makes perfect sense. But I just never thought about it in the
As like
social
an
media
Instagram thing.
Yeah,
that
Instagram
is
thing.
that's a different time.
Yeah, it is. Let's jump
For
into
sure.
let's jump into this question that we
Okay,
already
awesome.
picked. Will you pick a question, but make sure to pick the one on the top?
Which one will I choose? Let's go with this one right here.
Sweet. All right. Who's it from?
This is from Jessica Millman.
Apprentice.
She's the apprentice, and Kevin Ferrand is the mentor. And the question is, do you have any advice, thoughts on artists apprenticing their significant others? Pros/cons.
All right.
I don't know if
what do you think?
So personally, I think that like this is just like
Because
it starts off on the wrong foot, you know, because in a relationship, you're equals. You should take care of everything together. You should have the same responsibilities as each other. And in this situation, you completely throw that out the window. You clearly
that's
mark
tough.
someone as
inferior, and
Is
the other one
inferior.
is like the superior.
and I just don't like it. Never works out.
Yeah.
You lose one or the other. You either don't learn how to tattoo, or you lose the person you're in a relationship with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree.
I have no clue.
I agree with everything Ulyss just said, and I think just to expand a little bit on that, like one person ends up in the dominant position and the other person is not. Even if you don't intend it to be that way, I don't think that you can maintain that type of balance just because of, the nature of what the two relationships are. Like, if one is romantic and platonic and the other one is more business-minded, somebody's gonna end up getting their feelings crushed along the way, and it's I don't know, that's tough.
Yeah.
I think if you really cared about the person enough, first of all, if you cared enough to teach them something that you love, that you would probably care enough to find someone that you looked up to be like, hey, man, or hey, lady, this is my person wants to learn how to tattoo, and I don't want that to mess my relationship up. Also, you know, it helps out a lot. Then she's learning so she can call somebody else, or he can call somebody else an asshole when they're telling him to
Clean tubes
clean
or
tubes.
sweep the floor.
And a lot of the stuff too, like I think the traditional apprenticeships, I think there was pros and cons to them. I think when I learned how to tattoo, there were heavy cons because everyone was just a raging dickhead.
Yeah.
You know, like there was stuff that you were like, what the fuck is going on? And they were doing it to be mean, not to teach you how to tattoo. They weren't teaching you how to tattoo. They were using you enough to make you learn yourself.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I think that you need to be mean to your apprentices, and I don't think you need to be mean and hurtful, but I think you need to teach them that they deal with the public, and they're trying to push their art. So you have to teach them how to deal with people really well, with a really high patience level, and also maneuver them into the right choices while they're beating you down to get some terrible tattoo.
Right.
And when emotions and stuff like that are involved, then they obviously are just going to at some point it's going to be taken personal when someone's calling you an asshole at work and someone is being like, oh, but I love you so much when you get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bit
Seems
fucked.
nearly impossible. So let's transition that from apprentice to actually just working together as equals and with no one being the boss in either circumstance. Is that something? Obviously, it's something that works okay for you guys.
Oh, I think it's
Or does it?
I think it's great. I mean, fortunately for Ulyss and I, we've both been tattooing for around the same amount of years, so neither one of us really feels like inferior to the other. And like anytime there's like a criticism, it's a constructive criticism. It's never like, hey, well, you know, I know more than you, or I'm bigger than you, or like anything like that. It's always from a place of like common ground and respect. And I honestly feel pretty grateful that I think tattooing just works into our relationship. It's not like the foundation of it, even though
Right.
it's
Exactly.
our
And
life.
also, you know, what she just said with that, like, it is, we do constantly battle, not argue, but battle back and forth about spending time with each other,
Oh, it's
because
the
we get
worst.
sucked in, you know, it's like if neither one of us is like, hey, we need to not do something that's tattooing, then we won't.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's
so
a weird balance.
We're super fortunate to have matching personalities and kind of opposite personalities, so we get along really well at work together. So we work, like, there's rarely a time at work where something is going bad enough for us to be like,
Yeah, no.
I don't, just stay over here and tattoo and don't say anything to me.
But
Oh, I
it
won tattoo of the day.
Did you win?
I won,
Congratulations.
yeah.
All right. Sweet. Congratulations.
But yeah, it is tough, man, because yeah, like we do work together so much, but it's just trying to maintain that balance outside of work. I'm like, hey, we should let's go be like a couple instead of like business partners and tattooers, like just for a minute.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that stuff too, though, it comes back, I think, to the same point. All about balance and being equal. But the reason I think it works so well for us is also what Eva said, is that we've already established our careers. We both came into the relationship at the same, I would say, level, but not just the same like technical aspect level, but also she knew the people that she wanted to know in the industry,
Yeah.
and I knew the people that I wanted to know in the industry,
Yeah.
and we nobody was like pushing the other one
yeah,
down.
no.
Like,
I've had people try to like get things from me, and it's just like the slimiest feeling in the world.
Yeah.
So it's nice to like meet a genuine fellow who's
It-
like, hey, I don't need anything from you except for to touch that butt.
yeah,
And I'm
that's
like,
pretty much
okay.
all. Yeah, and
Perfect.
I'm
I'm into
super
it.
into it.
So and that goes. I mean, you guys travel a lot together as well, huh?
Yeah.
So, just kind of run through like what or do you? Is there much time that you don't spend together? Do you ever travel? Do one of you ever go do a guest spot without the other one?
So I think when I just did Philly, and
Okay.
we spent 2 days apart.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time we've spent 2 days apart in about like a year and a half, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Definitely this year.
This
to
year,
use
yeah.
the cheesy
Yeah.
saying, but
We spend a lot of time together, which is great, I think, because we actually get to be two different people. You know, like we get to be business people at work and make fun of each other and have the normal tattoo shop banter that you should have.
Yeah.
Because if you have a tattoo shop that nobody's making fun of each other in, you probably don't work in a super
You
fun
probably
place.
don't.
Yeah,
You
no.
probably don't. Are you guys ever? What about artistically? Are you comfortable pushing each other? Do you offer advice? Do you ask for advice? Are you struggling with a piece?
constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Constantly.
Yeah.
Same thing, you know, we have such different outlooks on stuff that she sees stuff that I don't see or that I would never even think of, and I just try to act like I know what I'm talking about when she asks questions, and I'm like, oh, you should do this because, you know, color palette and the balance of the light here, and I'm just
You
making
do
shit up because I don't know what I'm
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
You do good.
But, I'm sure there's tons of value to it. I notice my wife doesn't draw, and my son's only 7. He draws, but he just draws like a 7-year-old. But it's amazing how often I'll find myself struggling to solve a problem, and I've got appointments the next day, and it's midnight, and I'm trying to get through it, and how quickly someone with fresh eyes can come through, even if they don't draw, and just be like, that part's weird, huh? And
Yeah,
you're
they'll
like,
be like, what
oh,
was that? You're like,
shit, that
damn
is
it.
weird. Ah.
For 3 hours, I've been battling.
I was looking at this part, and it was that part the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Totally.
yeah, there's a lot of value to that. I'm sure it's even better whenever the person actually has some background in it and can draw.
It's definitely helpful, and I have to say I feel like Ulyss has helped me a lot with technical issues, and I've helped him with a lot of artistic.
Yeah, because I'm really not the best artist. Like, just pulling stuff up. Like, if I see something that I know, like I can picture in my head,
Yeah.
I can make it the way that I want to make it look. But I can't just be like, no, let's do this, and just sketch this thing out. I'm over in the corner like,
Having
probably
a
looking
breakdown.
at my fucking phone.
Yeah.
Like,
So a lot of the references stuff that you're pulling, like the bird pieces the bird piece you did yesterday, the piece you did today, you're pulling a lot of that from reference photos and just trying to arrange it in a way that.
So
how are you interpreting it?
It does. I did a lot of different things. I went through a lot of different stages. So the reason that I started the whole bird thing that I do constantly now, because I love it,
Yeah.
is I wanted to have a controlled group of different images to learn a bunch of different things. So I started painting birds, and I was just stealing John James Audubon birds,
Yeah.
and I was painting them myself with tattoo-related imagery.
Gotcha.
And I did that long enough that they slowly started morphing, and now I just look at the coloring of a bird and draw it the way I want it to look.
Gotcha.
You know, so I'm not using as much actual reference as much as like color palette choices and things like that, where I'm like, this bird looks like this, I'm going to draw it like this, but it's going to have these colors.
Gotcha. What about you, Eva? Are you with more of a traditional approach? Are you use a lot of reference, or do you draw a lot from
Oh yeah,
your head, from life, or from what?
I like to, like, if somebody is like, oh, if somebody told me I want a bird, I'd probably pull up like a couple different references and Frankenstein them together in my own way. That's just kind of the way I've always worked. I like to see like the best attribute, in my opinion, I guess, like out of a subject matter, and then just kind of like arrange it in a way that I think it's the most appealing.
Yeah.
But yeah, always a reference, and especially if I try to like freehand something and it's just not working, then always go to the reference.
Yeah. So, but in order to do that and pull reference from different, from different images, you have to have a pretty solid background in just how light reveals form. Like, because this bird's probably lit from this angle, this bird's lit from this angle, and if you're not careful, you really did Frankenstein them together.
Yeah.
And you're like, that shit looks crazy.
Couple extra lumps, maybe an extra
Yeah,
eye.
exactly.
Its neck bends twice.
Right. Yeah.
It's all about that core shadow.
Yeah, exactly. So do you approach it that way? I mean, we teach a lot in just our in our courses and things like that, a lot about breaking things down into very simple shapes and establishing a light source, and then how that light actually reveals those forms, and then just building those forms together. I mean, it's basically, it's probably either a sphere, a cylinder, or a cube, or some hybrid of those things, and the light kind of does this. And so do you guys approach things that way whenever you're looking at reference?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if their reference doesn't always include it. And I mean, I feel kind of corny saying this, but I really think it's true. Like, as a tattooer who didn't attend fine art school, I was in a fortunate position to work with a lot of custom artists who either had been to school or were willing to share information with me, or I had attended seminars given by other tattooers. And I mean, the more you talk to other people and learn that information, just the better your work's going to get. So yeah, like if you establish those fundamentals, you can be unstoppable as long as you don't give up, you try to hone your skill, you work on your craft, you practice, you draw. Like, it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be. If it was, it wouldn't be worth it. But
right, yeah. And with that approach, you find yourself solving problems in your own way rather than just stealing tricks from
Absolutely.
everyone.
Like, you're not going to really truly be able to develop as your own artist if you're just constantly tracing other people's stuff. I mean, you might be a good technical, like, operator, but if you really want to, like, grow and progress as an artist, you definitely have to take those fundamentals that we just talked about and apply them.
I think like one of the worst things that could ever happen to you in your career, and this is just my opinion on it, is if you reference other people's tattoos constantly. If you really like the way they tattoo and you really want to tattoo like them, then I guess that's okay. But I think for myself personally, if I started doing tattoos that started looking a lot like someone else's, I think the worst thing that could happen is for somebody to come up and be like, "Oh, you tattoo like so-and-so."
Yeah, I agree.
And then you're like, "Ugh."
I'm sorry, but if somebody was like, "You tattoo just like Philip Blue," I'd be like, "I won! That's amazing."
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm saying?
There are a handful of people that
Yeah,
you can
like-
there's a couple people that you could be like, because there's nothing that you can do. But I mean, like a contemporary good tattooer now.
For sure.
Somebody being like, "Oh, you tattoo like Jeff Insminger," which I tried to do for years.
Yeah.
I was like, this dude's awesome, and I'm going to just do his stuff because he's already doing all the work for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but you do end up just being, I mean, it always looks like someone tried to pull off Jeff Insminger or someone. I see it all the time in the new school kind of mindset, like, oh, that guy really is working hard to be Victor Chill or Timmy B. Like they're really pulling those background into the edges just enough in those spots. Like they looked a lot at that trick. And there's nothing, like you're saying, there's nothing wrong with that, except for I think it makes more sense to go like, well, what is the problem that Timmy was solving right there? He was trying to bring your focus to this piece, and so he let the edges fall out on that piece so that this piece came forward. So think about that part of it rather than the trick that he used to
also,
get there.
too, if you just loosen your shit up, if you just loosen up and start drawing things the way that you see them, you can tattoo them however you want, and it'll be a piece of you on it because it's how you see it.
Right.
Well, speaking of that, just loosening up, like in the literal sense, if you just kind of like loosely sketch, how you were saying, like just get the basic shapes in, you can have a lot of fun with that and like probably discover some like twists or turns and shapes that you might not have if you were just kind of rigidly tracing somebody else's stuff. Like that's how you develop.
Yeah, you start to find your own kind of unique mark making. I felt so relieved at one time I was at a painting workshop with a guy named Jeffrey Hine, who's a great life painter, and and we were just talking about developing a style and how you work, and he made the comment that like if you're just focused on being a good problem solver, you don't really have to have anything to say. I'm not very like political or spiritual, or I don't have a lot of things to say, but he's like, but you do have a unique mark, a way of making marks that is yours. It's as unique as your fingerprint. And if you just trust your mark making, that's what comes out. You don't have to be saying anything in particular about
really
any
good.
subject.
Great advice.
Yeah, I really liked it because it felt like it took a weight off of my shoulders, because I've always felt like in tattooing it's one thing because it's a collaboration, but in painting or in drawing, a lot of times I'm like, I don't follow the news close enough. I don't have anything to paint about.
Yeah, I'm not sad enough. To do this.
Right. Yeah. So you guys from here are you're headed back to Florence, then to Due South. Is that right? Is that
Is Due South next, or is Literary Ink next?
I think Literary Ink
Where's
is
that?
next.
Chattanooga.
Oh, okay.
The
Love
awesome
Chattanooga.
people at Griffin are helping some other people out put on a show.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to say this on the internet.
All right.
I don't know anything about fucking Harry Potter.
Oh yeah, I know a tiny
And
bit.
it's a Harry Potter tattoo convention. So,
No. but we love.
I bet there's a bird in Harry Potter somewhere.
There is. There's a fucking owl. I know that.
I think that little snitch thing has wings, so you'll be good.
Perfect. All right. Well, if people want to find you on the internet, if they don't already know, what is the
Allegory Arts.
AllegoryArts.com.
Or is it Allegory Tattoos?
It's Allegory Tattoos.
Yeah, make sure it's Allegory Tattoos,
And
and not Allegory Tattoo. There's two shops.
We didn't know.
I didn't know until we.
Oh, until you actually did it. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
So
sometimes.
AllegoryTattoos.com or on Instagram.
Allegory Arts is Instagram.
I'm sorry, I just won Best of Show as well. So.
Oh, look at you. Man, you should go and celebrate.
That's okay. Let's do this. This is
Fancy. Do you want to go get it and I'll finish this up?
Thanks, guys.
Good job. Boo.
awesome. Which one won Best of Show, today's or yesterday's?
Today's, I think.
Awesome. Man, cool.
Is it a little wolf head?
Well-
But yeah, Allegory Arts on Instagram, Ulyss_Blair, Eva_Jean. Yeah.
And
that's
if you want to
us.
get, do you have time at Due South and at the?
I
at
do
this-
actually have time
Yeah,
at
we
Due
both
South.
do.
Both
So
do.
if you're listening and you want to get a sweet bird, or maybe a wolf,
a bird. Do you want to win Best of Show?
yeah, I mean,
tattoo.
we can try. I'm the most important thing is that I'm going for Miss Due South
Is
actually.
a contestant?
I'm a contestant in the Miss Due South competition.
Oh.
I started as a joke, but now I'm going to win. I'm in it to win it, people.
Awesome, man. Fingers crossed. Yeah,
I
know
just
you'll-
want to have Miss Due South on all my tattoo banners.
Right. And why wouldn't you? I bet you'll be so proud if he wins
I
that.
mean, that's
It's
my
like,
husband.
It's like a trophy husband at that point.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going for.
Perfect, man. Thank you guys so much for taking the time.
Awesome.
Thank you for
guys.
having us.
Thank you guys for supporting what we do. We'll see you next time.
Awesome.